Hello, students. You might be watching this video if you missed day 6 of chemistry class. So here is a very short summary of what we went through. First thing is we did the warm-up. And as always, we keep encouraging you to do the warm-ups and do the exit tickets, even if you miss class, because this is what determines your norms and active listening cognitive skills score. We think it's just a very simple way for you to get a good score on a cognitive skill just by completing the warm-ups and exit tickets. Next, we reviewed our objectives for the day. And you will see that what we did is we did a lot of work with chemical potential energy graphs, which were introduced on day 5, in particular looking at bond energy and bond length. Slide 4 was another review of a chemical potential energy graph, and it shows how the forces between the atoms change as the distance between the atoms changes, which is what causes this change in potential energy. Slides 5, 6, 7, and 8, they go into more detail about how we actually numerically determine what is the bond length and what is the bond energy. So for the bond length and the bond energy, the step is that you look at the minimum, the lowest point in these potential energy curves, because that's where the atoms form a stable bond. To find the bond length, you just find the value on the x-axis, the distance between atoms, that corresponds to this point, and that tells us the bond length. To determine the bond energy, you just find the corresponding point on the y-axis that corresponds to the minimum in the potential energy. And one note to always keep in mind is that we talk about bond energies as positive numbers, even though this crosses the y-axis at like minus 200, we will say this bond energy is 200 kilojoules per mole, not minus 200. So it's always a positive number. And after that, we did a POGL in Pear Deck that the students, were doing at their own pace. And this is what most of class was spent on. So it looks like this. An important thing is that we encourage you to do this. The link is going to be on the student hub for every class section. And you'll see that there's more potential energy curves. This shows 3 of them for these 3 different molecules. Here you had to match up the curves with the molecules. And the rest of this POGL just went through giving you practice in determining the bond lengths and bond energies for different molecules and making sure that you understand how this relates to the distance between atoms and the energy that might be used, that's necessary in order to separate these atoms. One is a way of talking about the bond length, one is another way of talking about the bond energy, and then finding trends between bond length and bond energy. So that's what the POGL covered. And then for students that finished early, they also had the opportunity to work on checkpoint 4, which is, again, just more practice with bond length, bond energy, and CPEG. That's the abbreviation for the chemical potential energy curves. Important thing on checkpoint 4, so there's always the instruction slide, and Mr. Wagner recorded a video where he did examples for slides 5 and 6, where you have to actually draw your own chemical potential energy curve. Slide 3 here on checkpoint 4, you just move the box to match the force with whichever situation it describes on the potential energy curve for these 4 points, A, B, C, and D. Slide 4, here you use these potential energy curves to determine the bond length and bond energy, and then you answer these questions here just by highlighting what the answer is. Slides 5 and 6 are these potential energy curves. You go back and watch the video and see how Mr. Wagner did it if you want some hints. Slide 7, you answer these 2 questions about the graph. And slide 8, you answer these 4 questions. And that is it for checkpoint 4. So again, all this information, it's going to be on the project hub. I will go to that in a second. But just a summary, if you were absent, what we did, we reviewed the attractive, repulsive, stable forces on the potential energy curve. We went over how you find bond length and bond energy from the chemical potential energy curve. We did the POGIL to give you practice in finding bond length and bond energy and making the connections with distance between atoms and energy used to separate atoms or break bonds. Went over checkpoint 4. And again, do the warm-up and exit tickets. And if you have not bookmarked the Student Hub, you should bookmark the Student Hub. All the information is here. Again, at the top level, we have our email addresses. Remember, we have office hours 1:30 to 3. I forgot to point it out. Content Cafe is back on between 6:30 and 8 on Tuesdays. You should have a link on your calendars. But as far as the day 6 summary goes, you'll see links to the warm-up and exit ticket. You'll see work due. Always do 1 week for today. If you did not do your warm-up and exit tickets from last Friday, you should get those in. Checkpoint 4 is assigned today. Try to get that done over the weekend if you can. And then here are the links to the Pear Deck, to the POGIL that gives you practice. And you can log on anytime. We totally encourage you to do this. You go through it at your own pace. And if you have questions, just reach out to Mr. Wagner or myself. So that is all. I hope this is helpful.